Hang on, yeah. Hang on. I will yeah, this is it. So is this big enough for you, or can I start? Is it big enough for you? Is it okay?
Yes, yes. Yeah,
All
yeah.
right. So okay, fine. I will so this particular presentation, my focus is more on methodology because I had read a lot more on hermeneutics. At the same time also I had make some amendments, changes or updates to the research question. So this is it, So I will go through. So I want one of my research question is on end times because the focus here is on end times. Because Tariqa Muhammadiyah talks about more on end times. So one of my research question is on end times. So this is here. I mentioned about the various trials and tribulations that Allah have sent down on various tribes or various kaum or various people in the past. So the same thing is also happening now, whereby we have climate change and all that. So here in the next one or two slides here, is the what you call it the torments that Allah had had tormented the peoples in the past. And the next few slides is when we have the global economy and also the climate changes. So the end times here, God mentioned about the how He opened up the gates of heavens and water pouring. This is during the time of Noah, and we are having so much flooding all over the world now. And this is for the people of Noah, and they were hailstones. There were hailstones thrown over them, and also here the word the blast here refers to earthquake. So earthquake was also the people of Samud were destroyed by earthquake, and we have got wind. We have got wind as well, which all of these are being reflected in our recent climate changes that we are experiencing now. And also, of course, Pharaoh. Everybody knows Pharaoh. He was drowned. He was drowned. So again, water here, water, and also Pharaoh here. Allah mentioned, or God mentioned that he was tested. The people was tested with flood. They were flooding, locusts, lice, frogs, and even blood. Blood here refers to the river, and the river changing into red color. We have got locusts everywhere now as well in some parts of the world, including Saudi, and we have got a lot of sinkholes happening sinkholes now. This is what Allah did or God did to people to Qarun, who went against Musa because he was very rich. He was a rich person, and a lot of sinkholes happening. Allah Taala or Allah here sank his house, and it's mentioned in the Quran here. So we continue again. This in this slide, the first slide talks about the things that happen, and these are the end times, whereby this slide here talks about the future or whatever is coming. And God Allah Ta'ala mentioned that the earth will be shaken, and then we have got a lot of earthquake, heaven. When we have got later, I will later in the next few slides, I'll show that there's a lot of meteoric activities, and also this is interesting because Allah Ta'ala or God mentioned that on the day itself, as we approach the end times, there will be no businesses. So this happens a lot more in we can see that happening in COVID-19, whereby businesses are closed and all that, and then the secrets are open. This refers to a lot of court cases, etc., court cases, and a lot of secrets among the multinationals, among the companies, countries. The secrets are being opened. And when God says about assembling here, I would like to interpret it as internet, because through internet and through the COVID registration and all that, so everyone is being assembled. All the whole world has become a small village. Cheating here, I will explain further in the next few slides. When you talk about the Federal Reserve and including government as well, including our government as well, because the Federal Reserve, the market, and they've been printing lots of money, lots of money been printing, and they were saying that nothing is happening, nothing wrong, don't worry, everything's under control. So that's how the government try to control the mind of the people, at least in US. And then also we know that ivermectin for COVID, ivermectin has been uh, is one of the is one of the medicine to cure COVID. But some government, including our government, is not approving it. FDA is also not approving it. But in India, it's been proven that ivermectin is a panacea to COVID 19. This is interesting here. This particular hadith. This hadith is sahih. Is sahih. This hadith is sahih, meaning to say it's authentic. This particular hadith refers to COVID-19. I would like to view this hadith to COVID-19, whereby it's mentioned that in the first year, God will withhold 1/3 of the rain, and 1/3 of plantation will die. The second year, 2/3, and the third year, everything, no more rain. So we are on the second year of COVID. So the food during this time, it will be a remembrance of Allah, and also the presence of Antichrist. Antichrist. Alright. So and then we move on to COVID-19. The next slide, COVID-19 and the economy. With the COVID-19, 144 million people were out of job. The CPI, 157 people in the services. Totally how much? Totally manufacturing 463. Basically 37% were affected. The whole world are affected in terms of job losses or job being affected. This is interesting because the CPI here, CPI refers to the inflation. So the food prices have been increasing. You can see food prices have been increased by 20. The home has also been increased by, the home prices increased by 23% worldwide. And also I think this is in US. I think this is in US. This is in US. And also here, it has increased to 9% now. This is 9% now. I should mention 2021, actually 2021. And here, this is interesting because of COVID-19, the Federal Reserve here refers to the bank, the central bank in US. They have pumped in almost 4 trillion, 4 to 8 trillion dollars to push up the prices of stock market. So the stock market prices has been artificially pushed up. So this is fictitious. And also this is a very interesting point, whereby World Economic Forum which is located in Davos. They have been planning to have they've been planning to have a new currency to replace USD, to replace dollar. Why? Because the US have been, the Federal Reserve have pumped in created a lot of money here. So this money will somehow collapse. This is an interesting point here, which says that every time when there's a global crisis, like World War One, Israel in 1918, Israel was they declared in Balfour Declaration. Israel was given UK then was given a choice to bring in the Jewish. And then in World War II, which ends 1945, Israel was formed, whereby Israel took 78% of the land in Palestine. And also now in COVID-19, Israel annexed the settlements. So therefore, they were having about 85% of the of Palestine. Why I mention this one here? Because this one here is actually links to the end times, because in Muslim end time, as in Muslim hadith that the Jews equivalent to the Antichrist. Okay, so it's important, this particular information, end times information is important. Now let's go to the next slide now. The next slide here talks about the various climate changes that we have and the non-climate change as well. So we have got a lot of winter storms all over the world, which we have lost about 15 billion. This is in US, if I'm not mistaken. And then time we have got thunderstorm. Yeah, this is in US. Yeah, this is in US. Thunderstorms. Europe have lost about 44.5 billion. US itself has lost about 49 billion. Cyclone 40 billion. So all this refers to a lot of floods and water and all that. Floods in Europe itself 5.5 billion euros. In China, there were 1.7 billion losses. In US, 5 billion. Wildfire and heat wave all over the world. In Turkey, we have got in Greece, we've got in Italy. Earthquake. This one here, I would like to draw a line here because over here, all these first bullets all refers to climate change, but the non-climate change, which is the earthquake here, earthquake have risen from 1997, 16,000 cases or events, but in 2020, the figures have doubled, not doubled by more than 10 times, but 164,000 all over the world. And this has been prophesied in the Quran, as well as in Bible as well. Actually, in Bible. This is also interesting because fireballs have got nothing to do with climate change. It has increased in 2006. It has increased from 3 to 2020 to 386. Interesting fact. Nothing to do with climate change whatsoever. So I strongly believe that this climate change is just a psyop to blind ourselves from the truth. The truth is that we are actually approaching something more serious than climate change. The whole thing about climate change is a cover up. Now, because of the COVID-19 incidents, people have been going back to God. I had mentioned this in my last presentation. So people have been a lot more have been searching about God. This is a theory the theory on sociology on prayer. Basically, prayers. People go back to prayer, and also some of the prayer is a source of calmness to release our depression and all that. And prayer here is the very soul of religion. And this is also interesting because in Islamic as well, in Islam, in the Hadith in Tirmidhi, he mentioned that prayer is the essence of worship. So these two is the same thing actually. Let's move on. Again, these are the various types of prayers. We refer to quantity of prayer, the style of prayer, the purpose of prayer, and targets of prayer. These are the various how they categorize the prayers. This is the some of the slides, some of the information about the effectiveness of prayers, whereby to eliminate diseases, depression, you can reduce depression, as well as the effectiveness of prayers depends on the spirituality of the person. And intercessory prayers, whereby a group of volunteers pray for patients whom they do not know, it is more effective. Yeah, it's more effective. So let's move on to the next one. This one here refers to affirmation. There's not much article. Most of this information are not in articles journal, but mainly in books, right? In motivational books and all that. These are Christian prayers, affirmation, a positive attitude, as well as visualization. In Islam, prayers is very important. So much so that prayers is considered to be a worship, and there's a special prayer for forgiveness. And if you do a lot of prayers, there's some prayers that are equivalent to some zikir that are equivalent to prayers as well. And there's also some surahs in Quran that if you to read some surah like Waqaf, that one can increase one wealth. In Surah Kahfi, to read Surah Kahfi, the trials and tribulations from Antichrist will be averted, and also these two surah or these two chapters, the person will be saved from the torment of grave and will enter paradise. Congregation, Jamaah prayers and all that is more very powerful. And saints have got very and those who are very close to God will be their prayers will also be more acceptable. Here, these are some of the from Sufi traditions. There's a various what you call it litanies. His here refers to litanies. So these are various litanies being practiced by the Muslims all over the world. Hizbul Saifi, Hizbul Mughni, Hizbul Bahr, Hizbul Biqiyah by Ibn Arabi, Hizbul Nawawi, and also these are some of the continuation as well. Ratib Al-Atas, Ratib Haddad, very famous among those in Indonesia and all over the including Malaysia as well. Maksurat for Hasan al-Banna. These are those who are proponents of Ikhwanul Muslimin, Manzil, and also various ayat as well. So let's move on to the next slide. So the next slide now, I'm focusing my PhD. I like to focus more on Tariqa Muhammadiyah Ahmadiyah, or in short, it's called TMA. It's founded by Sidi Ahmad bin Idris, by Said Ahmad bin Idris, and it's been all over the world, acclaimed or practiced in all over the world. And these are some of the sayings, which he said that my tariqah is a tariqah of doa or tariqah of prayer, and he said that he swear that all creations will embrace his tariqah during end times. So this end times here keep on appearing several times, many times actually. And the multitude of my adherents will be saved from the trials and tribulations during end times. And also, if it is destined that the sky here can be referred to meteors and all that. Meteor, meteor, meteors. And if the sky were to fall, everyone will perish except those who recite my particular litany. And then my tariqah is the essence of happiness, and also my tariqah is Al-Quran and Sunnah. So these are some of the literature review for the TMA sources. Yeah, these are the sources here. These are the litanies in Tariq TMA. And this one here, this will be in this one here. I mentioned this already. These are the seven spiritual development. This will be more on my research question number 2, right? Research question number 2. And then here, this very spiritual level here. This is my problem statement, which I had amended and updated. So based on our last discussion or my last presentation. Here, the problem statement here states that TMA has been studied in great detail, but mainly on biography, and also history and jurisprudence school, the mazhab here, his mission, the mission of Said Ahmad bin Idris here, translated works, I should mention the TMA and Sidi Ahmad bin Idris, Sidi Ahmad bin Idris, right? And also it's been a lot been translated here, and also the spread, there've been articles and books or PhD written on the spread of this tariqat or TMA, and the normalization, meaning the departure from the original teachings, and a lot of articles been written on in Malaysia. These are many articles, as well as some PhDs and masters level as well. And there are papers written on the TMA in Sudan, TMA in Libyan. These are done by the Orientalists. However, no studies have been done to dissect the litanies and prayers of Ibn Idris. Yeah, that's the right word, Ibn Idris here. On the efficacy and application at the individual, family, organization, and state level when practiced by those in office. So continuation. Additionally, TMA has been popularized as the tariqah of end times. However, no study has been carried out in this regard, especially its relevancy during these turbulent times. And also here, there are many forms of litanies. Many forms of litanies and prayer has been passed down to the tradition of Prophet as well as from Islamic saints. However, these prayers covers various aspects of one's life, acts as protection and overall well-being of self. However, there's no comparative studies have been made to compare the comprehensiveness of these litanies vis-a-vis, I should mention it also here, vis-a-vis the litanies of TMA, litanies of EMA. So this one should be changed. Litanies to BMA, TMA. This is my research question. I've changed this one here. What is end times? How does end times describe the scriptures and other tradition from other tradition or other sources as well? How extensive are the prayers and litanies of TMA? So here the TMA to various entities for how can TMA be applied to self, family, organization, even state level, and how could TMA be mapped to the ontological spiritual levels, the 7 spiritual levels which I mentioned above just now. And finally here the comparison of TMA and litany, TMA prayers and with other spiritual practices, other litanies. So this is my research question. The research strategy here I've adapted from my brother as well as from our friends from Parajan on that. So this is the objective: to understand and interpret texts and documents, the procedure discovering a meanings and motive of text and documents, and to construction of interpretation. The philosophy is interpretivism. The ontological assumption is interpretive, and epistemology. Assumption is understanding, and we go on one beyond it, which is like we understand the meaning, the philosophy behind the text. So these are the eight Humanities theories. So I'm going to Humanities now. These are the eight. So traditional philosophy, philosophical humanities theory, symbol and metaphor theory, romanticism theory, new criticism and literary theory, reader response theory, reception theory, and politeness theory. This is interesting. So for the next slide, the bulk of the next slides, we'll be talking about humanities. Right. So let's move on. So this is the first story. The theory here, by the way, the theory here, humanities actually has been derived from the study of Bible. You can see not rabbi here. So most of the humanities theory here were from Bible. It derives from Bible, and then it branches on into social science. Right? So it revolves around Bible. Most of the scholars, earlier scholars, in fact, most of the scholars here are from Bible scholars. They are Bible scholars. Most of them. In fact, all of them actually. All of them. But then they somehow interpolate it to social sciences. Yeah? I think all of them are. All of them. 1 to 8. All of them are Bible scholars. But their methodology and their theories can be applied to social sciences. So let's move on. This is one of the oldest theory, which is on traditional philosophical thoughts. And basically hermeneutics is actually the study we read, understand, and handle text. The keyword here is text, especially those reading in other times and different contexts from our life. Okay, hermeneutics explores the condition and criteria that operate okay, fine. This is just to explain what hermeneutics is all about. Basically, to give a full picture. We try to interpret and give a full picture of the meaning of the text. It has been very long, right? Can be traced back to the Greeks. And then we come up, then there's one rabbi who came up with the rules of interpretation of the scriptures. This is rabbi here, Rabbi Hillel, 30 BC. You can see that it's very, very long time ago, right? Very, very long time ago, 30 BC. So he came up with the 7 rules of interpretation of Bible. So number 1 is to draw inferences from the Bible. Number 2, compare and make analogy. Number 3, 4, 5 is about deduction from the Bible, deduction, and come up with axioms, rules for a particular to be applied to any particular cases in the text, in the scriptures. And when we come to the 6 and 7 here, this is when we start to go or adventure into philosophical hermeneutics, which is the next level. Now we're talking about the traditional philosophy. This one here talks about the next level, which is the theory number 2. So what is the bearing of one passage of the scripture on the meaning of another? So we go on to the philosophical aspect now. And number 7, so this number 6. Number 7, we talk about the wider context of the passage, elucidate its meaning. So we need to see what are the deeper meaning of it. So then again, we go on to theory number 2, which is the philosophical humanities. And then over here in this on this table here, we talk about the differences between traditional philosophy, merely transcribe it or merely try to translate the meaning and applying axioms and rules, and the philosophical hermeneutics. So basically, traditional hermeneutics here, traditional philosophy here talks about the person reading the text, the individual understanding of the text. So this is a very famous quote from Descartes, 1650, whereby he mentioned that I am thinking, therefore I exist. So whatever it is, the center revolves around the person interpreting the text, but only that. So it's very focused, very what you call it? It's not blindfolded. What is the right word? I missed the word. Anyway, so here the reader again focus on the reader, whereas as opposed to here over here, this is more on communal. So you need to see what is the understanding, what is the group understanding of the text. So not just the individual person. Here focus on the reader again, thinking about the subject. Here then we go on to the understanding part of it, the reason behind the text. Why was the text being revealed? In what circumstances? So we go on to this is the meaning. Over here is just in the traditional philosophy, we talk about what happened in human life, what really happened. So it's just pure narrative. It's just pure narrative. But over here in philosophical humanities, we will ask the question about why does it happen. So the word why here. So we go beyond pure narrative, with pure narrative or pure meaning of the text. So let's move on to the next slide. So here, Schleiermacher here, he is the number one. He is the guru. He is the guru, the master guru of humanities, and literally he is his student. Okay, so he comes up with the rules to interpret Bible, and he also come up with he says that there's an art to understand the Bible. We need to the first reader could understand. So we have got to say, how do I understand this the text here? What are the effects to me? So he goes beyond not just the narrative or the text, but to understand the text. The keyword here, understand. So understanding the text can go to understanding the history, and beyond. Understanding the history of when the text was revealed, why, so all that, yeah. So the word understand here is very broad, and it's very wide ranging. The Didley here, he did very interesting. His most important contribution is that he extended humanities to social science and human science. So this is his main contribution, and he mentioned that we have got to relive the experience of the person who of the text itself. So we have got to put ourselves in the shoes of the person in the context of the text. So over here, this is his word here. We have got to relive it. It's very interesting here. And then the connectedness also refers to the life here, to relive, and expressions, objective, subjective. So yeah, then basically you need to relive again the text. Somehow we've got to put our shoes in the context, in the shoes of the people mentioned in the text, or in the author's view, or in the author's shoes. So this is something which he contributed. And then we got to this slightly modern Ditley. Ditley is continuation. Sorry. Yeah, this is what he extended to social science. Yeah, and then this is the modern one here. Yeah, Gadamer, of course, Gadamer is a student. He's a student of student. When I say student, he supported Schleiermacher and also Ditley. He went one level up to say that humanities, we must approach humanities as though it is a game or a festival or an art. So this is his main contribution, and whereby he mentioned in his famous book Truth and Method, whereby he said that we need to go into the philosophy. Why, when we say about philosophy here, is why. Why does it happen? Why? You know what I mean? So just like a game or festival, why do we have this festival or art? Why? What is the motive behind the artist drawing the art? What happened to him? What was his life all about? Why he do the like? So it's like you're going deep and deep and deep. So this is like his contribution, but it is still under the second theory. Then we go on to Paul Tariqa, which is the third theory. This is the third theory, symbols and metaphor. So he introduced the symbols and metaphor, whereby Bible, and also Quran, as well as hadith, as well you can say hadith, and other texts like in poems. So we have this we have symbols, metaphor, signs. Where's that? Yeah, signs here. So we need to understand what are the symbolic meaning of some of the parables. Like in the Bible, you talk about parables, metaphor. In Quran, there's a lot of metaphor. Uh, Metaphors we mentioned a lot in Quran as well. So what are the meaning behind these parables or behind these metaphors? So introduces the very powerful theory on symbols and metaphor, right? And that this is a concept where we have this preliminary understanding and also hermeneutics cycle. So we start off with preliminary understanding. Even before we start reading the text, we'll have a form of something like preconceived understanding, preconceived understanding of the text, even before we read the text, and then after that we improve. As we go on, we do more research, we improve, we understand more. So that's what I mean by what you call it, hermeneutic cycle. So we start from here, we go on. It's like from another version, it's like more like a spiral. As we move, as we understand more about the text and about the author and about the circumstances, about history and all that, we increase our understanding more and more. So this is his famous saying. And the culture as well. We do at the culture, we do at the language, environment, and all that. So that's the humanistic circle. So this is interesting to say that at arriving at a picture, the whole without scrutinizing the parts or pieces, but we cannot understand the individual pieces until we have some sense of the wider picture as a whole. So this is the same or very similar to the meaning of what Ibn Arabi here is a Sufi saint. Is a Sufi saint to say that when you hear what I bring, pay attention. Then through understanding of the detail, the whole, and combine the details into the whole. So it's something very close to the concept of hermeneutic circle. So let's move on. Then we go on to romanticism. Romanticism theory. Very interesting, guys. I actually I enjoyed reading hermeneutics actually. When I'm taking this the research methodology on the hermeneutics. Very interesting to me. Let's move on. Romanticism here means that the author and the literary or the poem or the text is the same, one and the same thing. So we need to look behind the reason. We need to look at the author. Sometimes when we read the text or the poem, or we need to look at behind it, the reason behind it. The meanings. We need to count the meanings and promote understanding of the text. Because the poems or the text, the scriptures, actually reflects the genuinity of the authors. All right. So this is the guru here. All right, the guru over there. And then we go on to the next theory, which is on the literary theory. Opposite literary theory is opposite to romanticism theory. So under romanticism theory, the author is the text. Author equals text, right? But under the new criticism, right? It's also this particular theory is also called new criticism or literary formalism or just literary theory. Is we mentioned that the author is not the literal, it's not the text, it's not the literary. They are different. They are not. So therefore, when you study the author, you have got to, it's autonomous from the text, not the text. Author is not the text. So it's a very interesting theory here. Because this says that the literary itself can carry some other meanings which the author can imply or not imply. So it's very interesting here. This very interesting point. And then this deeper meaning can transcend beyond the author or beyond the writer. All right. So this is the what you call it, the guru here. So anything beyond the pardon? Sorry. You want to ask something? Okay. Do you want me to continue or what? Alright. There are now 33 slides. My slide is about 45 slides, so there about 10 more slides to go. I'm going fast because of the conditions that I'm in now. At the same time, the condition because there's no electricity, no power, and all that. I want to go fast because of the battery and all that. I am using a power charger, power banks, and all that. That's the reason why I'm going quite fast here. And then we go on. This is where this is what I love this theory. This theory is about reader response theory. Basically, this theory here states that it talks about it is in response to the literary theory, the one which is above here, which says that, look here, it is actually the reader will decide whether the literary is separate from author or not. It's all about the reader. It's very similar to the first theory, quite similar, but then the first theory is very limited. And it's like very, it's just like a horse with the blinds. So they blinkered. Blinkered. So just like the first theory, the first original theory, but then it's more broader. It's more broader because the reader here can look at so many things. So here again, so this particular theory, the reader response theory, link again the poetry to the author. So here this is the so the readers and interpreters can bring their own beliefs and assumptions. So it's entirely the reader now. Okay. Very similar to Schleiermacher as well. He did mention that, but then it is being extended further. So the reader himself or herself, is not a passive spectator, but also an active contributor to the meaning of the text. Yeah. So we go on to the next slide, again explaining about the reader response theory. The emphasis on the active role of the reader in interpreting the text. You mentioned that again. So basically, the reader or the community of readers completes the meaning of the text. Assumptions here is that all right. This is a good point here, which says that even if he may speak legitimately about the author's intention, whatever the author says, but the reader is the one that gives meaning, the appropriate meaning to the text. So finally, it is the reader or the readers that will decide on how he or she understand the text, or the group of people understand the text. So the text as a sender of message or content remains potential until and unless the reader actualizes it. So this is very interesting. We need to say that the text is now alive. The text is now evergreen, because the reader, like we read the text now, we read Bible or Quran, and we can interpret the text according to how we understand it. The text remains an abstraction, fine. This whole thing again stresses about the whole thing again, yeah. So these are some of the gurus here. These are the gurus here. Uh, yeah. So they're against the fact that author is equals to the literary. They're against romanticism. They're also against the new criticism, and they were saying that it's actually the person reading the text. And then so hence we have got two schools of thoughts in interpreting the Bible. We have got the moderate views, and then we have got the radical view. So over here, Isa and all that, they were saying that if you're able to read the Bible, it has got to be within a parameter, within some understanding. So you can't go out from the parameter of the Bible. So this is the moderate thinkers, or the moderate schools of thoughts on RRT, on this theory here, right? Yeah, so there's a borders here, interpretation borders. So there's some borders. So you can't go out from this parameter of understanding of the text of the scriptures of Quran, for the matter. But then we go on to this radical view, mainly from US, right? The scholars from US, and they were saying that that you can go, it's like up to you to how you want to translate the text, as long as it makes sense. As long as it makes sense in your view, then the text is, your interpretation is valid. So this very open interpretation, mainly in US here, mainly in US scholars, Bible scholars here, yeah, and then yeah, that's about it. Yeah, equally, every reader transform narrative into wish fulfilling fantasy, in effect about himself or herself. Oh, yeah, interesting here, because I did mention here, this one here is a quote from Ibn Abbas radiallahu an, when he said that, were I to lose a camel shekel, I would find again in the book of Allah. So he says that if I were to lose anything, if I'm in a loss, if I were to read the Quran, I will find the answers in Quran. So this meaning to say that Quran gives him the answer. Quran is fresh. Quran is like talking to him. So the whole thing is alive. Everything is green. You know what I mean? So this is the meaning of radical. So this is radical. All right. So let's move on. This one here is the reception theory. This is theory number 7, and theory number 6. So here again is the word here is the theory, but later on we combine these two theories are being combined. So reader response theory look at synchronic, meaning to say that at a particular, we study the events at a particular time. It can be our time, yeah, or it can be the time that the text was written, or any other time, right? Whereas in reception theory is diachronic, meaning to say that any period of times, any periods over periods of time. So therefore, because it's very gray, these two is very close to one another, they combine. The scholars here, the scholars of Humanities scholars, combine these two theories, 6 and 7, to become one theory. They call it reader response theories, whereby they combine synchronic and diachronic. These are the scholars here. So let's move on. And then yeah, these are the scholars. Let's move on. And then we have got this very interesting theory. This one here from China. This theory here came from China, as well as Asian, but mainly from as well as Asian, because we talk about a face, saving face. This one here, China, saving face. So face saving or saving face is a very, very important culture. Very important culture for the Asians, for the Chinese, for the Japanese, for the Asians. Yeah, for the Asians, very important. So this happened when the founder, the one who wrote about this, were two missionaries when they went over to China, and then it was incorporated into linguistic theory by these two scholars. And then later on, earlier on in 2001, this particular theory, politeness theory, is applied to Bible, and whereby William Olhouse got his PhD from. He's got his PhD on writing on politeness theory. Basically, politeness theory here is about face saving, and we react according to how we feel, how the threats we feel, how the threats or how the threats of the conversation or of the text. So we react. If the text example, if the example here, I give an example here. If the text is to mention about the trials, tribulations, and all, so we tend to be defensive, or even kiamat and times. We tend to be defensive. There's a element of fear, defensive, an element of fear to us. So we tend to be very defensive. When we talk about, when the Quran or the scriptures talk about paradise and all that, we tend to be very open. We tend to be open. We tend to be very open, and we tend to be very peaceful or motivated. That's the sort of thing, you know what I mean? So this is more like carrot and stick. You can say this is like more carrot. Oh, Allahu Akbar. This is more like a carrot and stick situation. Then we go on to, I'm about to end already. Then we have got this concept on Quranic Hermeneutics. So basically, the Muslims, exegetists or mufassirin here, interpret the Quran. And they say that Quran is a continuous text that must be readable and interpreted at all times. So this is very close to RRT, Readers Respond Theory. Right? This is very close to RRT, the theories which I mentioned above just now. And the traditional exegetists are mainly from Sunni, Shia, Khariji, and Sufi. Khariji, just for your info. Oh yeah, the light is on now again. Yes. Suddenly there's a power back. So anyway, Sunni here, Shia, Sunni, Shia, he mainly in Khariji here, I need to explain. Shia here is very pro Ali, very pro Ali. Khariji here is anti Ali. Is anti Ali. Yeah, they are anti Ali and anti Muhammadiyah. They don't want Muhammadiyah, so they open up their own sect. Sorry, I will I'm going to close my doors and all that now. So Quranic, and then we have got Sufi interpretation. Sufi interpretation of the Quran. Yeah, there are the word here, tafsir and ta'wil. They're almost the same thing. They're almost the same. This is almost the same here. And then we have the knowledge of So these are various study of Quran, where we have got the etymology, narratives. These are the contemporary what you call it, interpretation. This is very what I call it, these are just examples. There are lots and lots more. So this is the old what I call it, interpreters of Quran, the famous Rashid Reeza, who started off with the Ikhwanul Muslimin, yeah. So the approach is more of understanding the Quran and how Quran can be applied to democracy, human rights, gender, and all that. Muhammad Abduh as well. And then we have got this mufassirin or the exegetes, whereby they start to translate the Quran from the social perspective, historical perspective as well, and there's also scientific. I've been reading. There's more on scientific understanding. This group of people, Rashid Reeza, started to do on scientific, but later on there are a lot more write-ups on scientific interpretation of Quran. I've got two more slides to go. Now we go on. If you have to apply the prayers and litanies of the saints, we will notice that some of the his are not purely Quran. Some are pure Quran, some are partial, and some are none. Some are just based on the tradition of prophets, or some are just pure prayers, pure prayers or dua of form. And then of course some of the prayers, some of the litanies and prayers claim that they've got inspiration, direct inspiration from God. It's their own inspiration, and some it comes directly from prophet. And then this is a good point here. Whoever reads our litanies will beget what we have begotten in terms of the spirituality, wisdom, protection. the application. There I mentioned here, the reader response theory are very apt here, very applicable here, right? And then we got the last slide, of whereby the Tariqat, Muhammadiyah, Ahmadiyah, TMA prayers and litanies, yeah. And we have got here whereby I mentioned that the knowledge of Sufism is divided into two, Burhani and Irfani, and Irfani, Ishraqi and Irfani. Whereby Burhani here refers to how we get the information or the knowledge from text. So this is hermeneutics. Yeah, this is hermeneutics here. Irfani and Ishraqi or Irfani here, we got direct inspiration. This is we direct inspiration or revelation. This one here we cannot vouch. We cannot vouch. We can't really vouch this thing. But over here, yes. So when we read the Quran, I mentioned here that the Quran actually teaches that this is the first verse of the Quran, which says we ask the Prophet to actually recite, to ask the Prophet to whether he can recite or whether he can read. And then this verse mentioned that mankind are taught with pen. So the first 5 verses of the Quran mentioned that men have got to read and write with pen. So then again, this is hermeneutics qualities. The founder of this of TMA states that his particular knowledge, his particular tariqah is mainly based on Burhani, because he have written a lot of books. And litanies, so one can study his books and litanies. Yeah, there you are. So I've done it. I finished my presentation. Yeah, I've got to get my backups, because just in case the lines are off and all that. Hang on, Reeza. Okay. All over to you. I'm planning to write your notes and all that, so that I can. Hold on. So that I can okay. So that I can I can capture your points. Go ahead, Reeza. Okay, fine. I'll go back to the research question. Hold on. Research question is up here somewhere. Hold on. Problem statement. After problem statement is research question there. Yeah. Research question is up here. Yeah.
Just describe the end times. Yeah. The particular scripture that you're studying, the scriptures in TMA describe end time, something like that. So the part that you presented later on about end times, that's just the background. So you are not carrying out a research about end times. You carry out research about the tariqat, not the end times itself. So so what is end time? I think it's an empirical question to skip that one. That would be my suggestion there. In fact, you won't be hard to answer that question. But the second part, yes. So you just need to rephrase it so they sound much better, I think. So you're focusing. this one is too general, right? The scriptures, there's a lot of scriptures. Which particular scripture, of course. So you're
I
talking
thought I
about,
thought I thought of going over to Bible and this sort of thing, Bible and some of the Bible lah, Bible and
well,
some other
there will be
traditions. I'll touch on some traditions lah.
yeah, that will be literature review. There will be the background research, but that's not your research question unless
Okay.
right.
Understand. All right, I totally understand. Yeah, totally agree.
Yeah. Okay. And then you go into uh, now the important part is I think the important part is about the prayers and how do you pronounce the word?
Litany.
Litany or TMA. Huh? So
Yeah.
see, this is the part that I like your take on this. What is it that you want to study about the litany or the prayers? What is it that you want to study?
About the comprehensiveness, the extensiveness of the prayers, whereby the prayers can be applied to our seven life areas, and it can be applied to this is for the self, and also it can be applied to it also can be applied to various entities here, which I mentioned here. It can be applied to family. It can be applied to family, even to organization and the state as well, the country level. So it can be applied to self. And so there are two things here. One, at the individual level. At the individual level, it can be applied to the life areas, and also for the various groups here or entities here, which is like for the family, individual family members, to the organization. How does these prayers be materialized, or we can't say materialized? How does these prayers be incorporated or influenced, being influenced at the organization level or at the state level? If one were to read it, how will this be manifested based on the prayers? How will this be manifested at these various levels? That's what I meant.
Okay. All right. Let's get to the let's formulate the research questions such that it can be answered from the methodology and then from the findings, right? So
Okay.
hold on to the how part first. Let's ask the question of what first, yeah. So you ask the question, what are the areas? What are the areas does or do the prayers and litanies?
The litany. Yeah.
What are the areas of the prayers and litanies of TMAs? Something like that, right? So first you
Yeah.
ask the question what. So what areas do the prayers cover, right? So that is when we talk about the prayers and litanies, are we focusing on one? There's one writer,
One writer.
right?
Ahmad bin Idris. Yeah.
Ahmad bin Idris, right?
Ahmad bin Idris. Yeah.
Okay, so we want to state his name. I think state his name.
Yeah.
Use his name because
Ibn Idris. Ibn
yeah,
Idris.
Ibnu Idris.
Ibn Idris.
Just Ibnu
Yeah.
Idris, yeah. Ibnu Idris. Okay.
Ibn Idris. Ibn
Yeah.
Idris.
Okay.
They are, I mean, scholastically, he's known as Ibn Idris lah. Or academically, he's known as Ibn Idris.
Ibnu Idris, yes. So
Yeah.
so phrase that one. That's the first one. So it's like asking the question. It's the same type of question about what do the doctrines cover, or something like that. What do the prayers cover, or something like that. Yeah. So you can talk about that. Eventually, you can yeah uh, extend the concept a bit. Instead of areas, we can use the word what are the key ontological components of there you go. What are the key ontological components of prayers and litanies of Ibnu Idris in TMA. There you go. So on key ontological components that would save you from covering all of the prayers and litanies.
Okay.
Right? You were key ontological components or something like that.
Yeah.
Clear.
Yeah.
So we know what the keys are. They're different. Okay. And then if I understand the essence or the premise or the intention behind your question, you want to see how it can be applied, right?
Yes.
So that's before we talk about how it can be applied. Let's talk about how or the contemporary interpretations, contemporary hermeneutics analysis of something like that, right? What would be the contemporary? Because we're talking about today's world, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. What
Yes.
what are the contemporary interpretation, contemporary application, contextualization of all those are possible words to use of the prayers and litanies of Ibnu Idris in TMA, Tariqa Muhammadiyah Ahmadiyah. So now the first one is the text itself, right?
Yes.
Yeah. The second one is the application in contemporary world, right?
Yeah.
Now we will revise this again, right? Let's go back. So in hermeneutics, there are three important lenses, so to say, right? One is the text, the other one is the writer, the other one is the reader, right?
Yeah. Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Which forms the context later on. So let's bring the what's his name? Ibnu Idris into the hermeneutics analysis, right? This is where you got to use which school of thought, which theory, and all that. You got to think about. Uh, the first question is about the text itself. The second question is about us reader right now, contemporary context. Then the next one is also the next one should be the second one, by the way. Should be also about the Ibn Idris himself, or Ibn Idris context. It's now about the lived experience of the author, right?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
lived experience of the author. So there's something to be extracted there from the hermeneutics analysis about the lived experience, the life of the author. So that could possibly be your second question. Push the second question to the third question now. So the first
Sorry,
question,
I don't get you. Yang ni live or author ni, I don't get you lagi.
remember in hermeneutics, in fact you mentioned in hermeneutics just now, is also to understand the life or the lived experience of the author,
Okay.
putting ourselves in the
Understand.
shoes of the author, right?
Yeah.
Putting ourselves in the shoes of the author in order to understand the intention, the meaning, the intended or whatever the imagination, the consciousness of the author, so to say. So that should be I think the second question, right?
Okay.
Right?
Alright.
What was the second question? I forgot now.
The third, the second question is about the life of the author, how he actually intended the prayers to be.
Yes. Yes. So that's the second one. The third one is your third question there.
The contemporary hermeneutics. What are the the contemporary application of the prayers
Yes.
in this modern world. How do you apply it to the modern world?
Yes. Maybe the word is not application. We got to use hermeneutics word. I don't know. Hermeneutics use the word application. They might talk about interpretation. They might use the word
Yeah,
contextualization. Maybe
yeah.
contextualization will be word because context is big for hermeneutics, right?
Yeah,
So
correct.
what will be the contemporary recontextualization? Will be another word, recontextualization, right? Of yeah. So you have that three there.
Yeah. Yeah, how about the other one, Riva?
What
It's
is that?
like mapping the TMA to
Uh-huh.
the ontological spiritual levels, whereby the amalan-amalan, the amalan, the practices linked to nafsu amara, nafsu Muhammadiyah, apa ni, amara, lawamas, mulhamma, mutmainna, radiyah. Semua tu there's amalan for each one of them.
Okay, then make that as a particular highlight in the third question, which can
Okay,
be
okay.
which can be a continuation from the first and the second and the third, right?
Yeah, okay. Can.
It can be a continuation from the first, the second, and third research question, because the first will talk about the ontological components of the prayers and litanies, right? Which might
Yeah.
have all the seven as well, right? So that
Okay. Can
yeah,
be done.
you can, right? So
Can,
you
can.
can. So or you want to highlight it, you can put it as a sub question, but you highlight the question under the third one, or you can put it under the second one. You can put it there too.
Can.
Hmm. So you just be apa namanya eclectically effective in placing that set of question.
Yeah, can.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
there you have it. That's enough for the three questions there,
Yeah, thank you.
right?
Yeah,
Belum habis lagi. Ada not finish yet, yeah. Right.
okay.
Okay. Now your slides on your end time presentations now a bit too extended, too many of them, and it seems like you're making a point that it is end times, right? Uh, uh,
Uh, Again, this is based on our interpretation.
yeah. Now, we are talking about making presentation now. Making presentation. So you presented like a long story about the end times, right?
Yes,
You
correct. Yeah.
presented. So before getting to the the actual research. So this is just the background of the end times. So uh, when it comes to presentation, the end times you probably limit it to 2 slides. The most is 3 slides, because this one will form the what is it, the kind of the background or the literature review of end times. What end time? Oh, is it end times? End times. So otherwise, you be you go too far into this one, you do not get into the Tariqa itself. You don't get the prayers itself. Hmm. Oh,
Okay.
there's also another part to the research question, right? Go back to the research question.
Because it's a research question, correct?
Go back to the research questions. I think there's the part, the research question.
Because it's a research question, there's the reason why I blew it up.
Oh yeah, okay. The other one, you don't have the comparison thing anymore.
Correct?
You don't do comparative study comparison between TMA with other tariqat. No, you don't have that anymore.
Why?
You don't have the comparative
I have this
analysis.
one here. Number
Com-
three. Number three.
Oh, itu dia. Okay. With other spiritual practices, that's too big. Spiritual
Spiritual
practices.
practices here means the various litanies and prayers lah of other tarikat, of other itu. That's what I meant.
Spiritual practices is everything lah.
Okay, buang, boleh bang? Tak
Ah.
boleh. I mean, so I'm okay. Yeah, okay. We can put it here as in comparison to others lah, other prayers and litanies.
That is still too big, Reeza. I mean, I can makan ada. Allahumma barik
Yeah.
lana fima razaqtana. There's a litany there, right? You
Yeah.
don't want to do that research. It be forever research.
So
You want to
kalau
stop it.
tarikat langsung
Okay. How about the famous or the one which popular litanies in Nusantara?
I mean, if you want to, okay, take one then. Take one or take two. Naqshbandi will be one. Because you also Naqshbandi, kan? You also, so you can say like, you have that authority to say so.
So
But if you take Nusantara, it's too many lah. Tariqa Nusantara is not.
the popular.
Identify two saja. If you want to do, just identify two. There be too many, might as well to do research.
Kalau the research.
Huh? The research.
So I thought of touching because I thought of touching.
Yeah, I'm listening.
Yeah, I thought of touching. There are 3 levels here, 1, 2, 3. One is for the elite lah. I call it for the elite. And one is for the moderate. You know what I mean? For the Nusantara. And then one is for the commoners.
Okay.
For the elite here, they normally Ibn Arabi, the wirid of Ibn Arabi. This is we're still talking about Nusantara here.
Yes.
We're still talking about Nusantara and the practices, the spiritual practices. Ibn Arabi here refers to Hizbul Wiqiyah, and also the weekly. Doing practice. The moderate here refers to I will take ratib al-atas and all that. Ratib al-atas, and also this is being practiced. Ratib al-atas, ratib al-atas, and the other one is Nawawi, Hizbul Nawawi. This is very famous. And at the same time satu lagi Hizbul Bahr. These are very famous. And for the commoners, when I say moderate here, I refer to the Sufi lah. These are the Sufis lah. Moderate here, I would say that this is equivalent to people from Ikhwan Muslimin, whereby they maksurat, and also maksurat full stop, maksurat.
Tabligh.
Kalau nak extend lagi, pada
Tabligh.
tabligh boleh. This part I want to mention tabligh, tapi you takut you kata too much. Tabligh dia amai Allah SWT. Tabligh dia ada tabligh ada dia manzil.
Okay.
Ayat 7 tu cukup lah tu, ayat 7.
Okay. Here the challenge is this, Reeza, the challenge is this, is that a similar application of analysis you will need to carry out for the others that you want to analyze, meaning you want to do hermeneutics as well.
How about if I were to go just to the kata macam maksurat ni sama maksurat kan? Maksurat is from past lah, Ikhwan Muslimin. Then I just mentioned I talk about a bit about what is a past, how Hasan Banna. This is Hasan Banna lah. Hasan Al-Banna kan? And then I just go straight into maksurat, and then I dissect and I study the maksurat. So enough lah, cukup lah tu. And then same thing with manzil. I talk about tabligh, what is tabligh and all that, apa semua. And then I just dissect a bit on the manzil. This is manzil.
You will also need to do similar analysis of the hermeneutics analysis, which means
Humanities apa ni manzil aja. I tengok manzil.
okay.
Tak payah nak tengok macam how macam Hasan Banna. I don't have to go through the scriptures of how Ikhwan Muslimin were formed, apa semua tu tak payahlah. The text of how Hasan Banna form, dan ni tak payah tu. I just go to my contention is just go to the maksurat saja. This is my text. This is my actual text yang I study is the maksurat. Here manzil I just study about the manzil lah. I tak payah go through because I don't have the text on tabligh macam mana how is it formed. I don't have that text. Macam mana, of course I can do research lah, I can get information of how tabligh is being formed, tapi tak ada teks yang siapa tabligh ni apa Maulana Ilyas rahmatullah alaih, dia come up
Umar
betul. Ilyas. Yes. As well as Maulana Zakaria juga. Maulana Zakaria came later. Dia punya adik-beradik lah dia ni kan. So I just want to, my focus is mainly on the deciphering ataupun the hermeneutics on the litanies and prayers of all of this. Itu I thought nak pergi banyak lagi boleh, because di sini dah number one dah study banyak dah. Here I dah study banyak dah ni. Number two ni kan, I've studied a lot already, and I can come up with macam mana several life areas example lah kan, several life areas, and then I just put tick example lah, tick example lah. This is very simplistic lah ni. It's not like this one, you only one tick example lah. It's not as simple as that, I know, but you know, that's what I meant. Yang ni ada several contoh lah, several areas. Yang ni ada maybe just one or two, or just one contoh lah. But then of course I need to write and make, I need to like translate, I need to get translation of all this, manzi translation apa semua lah, you know what I mean. That's what I meant.
Alright. That is okay. Let me say this first. My concern is this, and that is during the examination, right? During the examination, they will say you carried out this analysis for the litanies, prayers, or Ibnu Idris, but you did not do the same thing for the rest. That's one.
Okay.
That's what I'm just telling you the concern, right?
I understand.
However, I see your point about just comparing the texts. Okay, I'm evaluating the risk right now. I'm evaluating the risk. Now, if you put it as a fourth research question, right? If put it in a fourth research question.
Sorry.
This is all right. I'm helping to manage the risk at the design level, not at the viva level, right? At the design level. So you can still carry out the research, the comparison, as in chapter 6. Go back to your, what was the research question number 3 again?
There you are. How does TMA prayers and litanies compare with
not this
other
one,
prayers and litanies?
The one that we revised just now. How does this recontextualization, right? How can the litanies and right? What are the recontextualization? What are the recontextualization about that? What are the recontextualization? What are the contemporary recontextualization of litanies and prayers of Tariqa? Right. That's the third question, right? What are the contemporary recontextualization of Tariqa Muhammadiyah, Ahmadiyah in end times or something like that, right? Okay. Right. Okay. So so I was thinking sticking one sub question, and how does this compare with other tariqat, with other key litanies, something like that in Nusantara. So you can say that, but it's a sub question, so that if anything happens, your main questions will remain intact. That's another way. You see my point?
Understand. Good idea.
So if anything happens, they say, and if during the examination they say, you got to go back. You want to answer this question, you got to go back and collect more data. That's what for analysis. That's what you do not want to do, right? So at the design level, we manage the risk. So we can either make it as a fourth research question or build it into that, embed that in there somewhere. So
And
the
number two lah, number two you mean?
maybe number
Number
two.
two to how extensive tu is like part of number two, sub
No,
question of number two ke?
no, sub question number 3,
Oh,
right?
okay.
See what contemporary recontextualization, right? And then you can do compare with compare. You can put compare with others.
Tapi sorry ya,
Yeah.
I thought apa you mentioned just now the how what are the contemporary contextualization of literacy of Tariqa Muhammadiyah Ahmadiyah in end times. I thought this covered in number two lah, if tak ke?
Okay,
I thought it's covered in
number two is about Ibnu Idris himself. Right. Number 2 is about the author. Number 2 is about author. What are the what is the intended meaning of Ibnu Idris based on his lived experience, right? So number 2 is about the author's context. So number 1 is about the key ontological components. Number 2 is about the lived experience of the author.
Okay.
Right? So
Yeah.
all right. So remember, there's the text, there's the author, there's the reader. The reader in this context is us. In this context is today's contemporary society. Right.
Okay, yeah. I need to write up lah.
Yeah, just
Oh,
listen
nampak
back
sikit.
to my points just now. So if you want to have another one to do a comparative thing, you can put it under the third one maybe, because the third one is about contemporary contextualization or contemporary contextualization, right?
Okay, faham.
So you want to compare that with other litanies, other main litanies. Then you name the litanies, name the prayers in Nusantara. Yeah, got that one?
Yeah, okay.
Okay, and then yeah, you got that one. Okay, and then in your methodology, you after the extensive analysis of the different theories, the 8 theories there of hermeneutics, you will need to identify which particular theoretical approach you're using and why
Okay,
you
fine.
want to use it.
RRT.
Sorry?
RRT. Yes.
RT,
This
okay.
one.
So you got
This one is
identified?
the easiest. This is the easiest because it's like very open. You know what I mean? 6 and 7. 6 and 7.
Yeah, I thought you choose that
RRT.
one as well. Yeah. Okay, so you very apa namanya, a very Maliki approach of it.
Yes.
Very mazhab Maliki. Macam mazhab Maliki lah sikit tau.
RRT. I choose RRT because everything depends on me.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Everything
So
depends on me.
but you got to justify why you know that. So you got to justify why you used it. It cannot be because it's up to you. You got to justify it. So why in this would be the best theory or the most suited theory in answering or relevant pertaining in reference to your research questions.
Yeah, okay.
So that is the theory then, and then eventually you will need to show in the methodology, because this is the theory, but in hermeneutics, just like grounded theory, the theory is also the methodology, and so you will need to demonstrate how the methodology systematically will be carried out, right? So that will be your methodology slide. Based on this theory, how is the methodology being laid out? Will be how you carry out your analysis there. Right? You got that one?
Yeah, okay, fine.
All right. So
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay,
all
right.
right. So the next one is to streamline or revise the research questions again. The slide again to the end time slide to make it shorter, maximum 3 slides. So again,
Okay.
you're making your you're explaining the background. You're not proving something. Otherwise, it becomes a empirical question, and it's not an empirical question, and that's not your research. Right? So and then research questions. Then from that one, you need to develop a good problem statement. It doesn't. I'm not sure I see a good problem statement there. You will need to connect that with the other literature to talk about the Tariqa Muhammadiyah Ahmadiyah. I know that you said that all this while the research on the Tariqa Muhammadiyah TMA is more focused on the history or something like that, right?
Yeah.
So
Translation, history,
translation.
biography.
All right, biography. That's right. So you will want to show where is that theoretical conceptual gap, and then there's where to show that one. So what is not been done. So there's a lot of cleaning up that need to be done, because this now you have the methodology identified as an important part, and then the methodology. Okay, right?
Okay, thank you.
Okay, welcome. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Anyone else? We will have another supervision 2 weeks from now, more or less, maybe sooner. 2 weeks from now. Can I look at the participants? Those who attended. We do have a number who's here. Anjan is okay. Rina, ada lagi tak bawah? Chimin is not here. Chimin is not here. Okay. One is not here too. All right. Okay. I just want to know. We will have another one. 2 weeks from now. I think the 13, right? 13th of October. So we'll have that as a long session today. We have what, from 9:30 today, and it's about 1:30, so it's 4 hours. What was it? 4 hours. 4. Wow.
Selamat tengah hari.
Selamat tengah hari, Muhtadi. Yes.
How are you, Doctor?
Good.
If you this is next session face to face, especially for those students here in Binag, better for us.
Face to face, yeah. If we do face to face, we want to have permission from the director first.
Now of all us fully vaccinated, maybe allowed to us to come.
Yeah, I would want that as well. We want to get that director to say yes.